So this video only reflects my personal experience with system flashing and handheld gaming during this specific time. It's entirely possible a huge update will drop the day after this video is released, so just take it as a general guide. And now, it must be emphasized, pay close attention everyone, this thing is absolutely not SteamOS. Anyone who tells you they're flashing SteamOS onto Android is just trying to get clicks. What exactly is an OS? It's an operating system. But this is just an ARM version of the Steam app based on ROCKNIX, a well-known Linux system in the indie handheld scene. At best, it's software, and it's not even remotely related to an operating system. It still relies on various compatibility layers to run games, so there's no fundamental difference from Retroid PI, Valet, or others. Thus, the principle behind installing it isn't flashing a Steam system at all. Instead, after following the ROCKNIX flashing tutorial, you can just directly select to install Steam from within the ROCKNIX system itself. You can find detailed text and video tutorials for the specific steps, so I won't go over them here. Okay, I've got two machines, a Conquer Pocket Fit with ROCKNIX on a TF card using a G3Z3 chip and a Xiaodiao RP6 with the system on internal storage, running the 5 million version of the 8Z2 chip. Normally, ROCKNIX doesn't suggest writing to internal storage. A bricked TF card isn't a big deal, but a damaged device might be hard to fix. I went ahead and got a recovery package for the Xiaodiao, but if you're following along, be careful. Then, for comparison, I brought 4 devices, a SteamDeck, an X, BOX, Elite X, flashed with Bazzite, the standard Windows handheld, and one running the Valet game, Ding 3. First, let's examine the system interface. Upon entering Steam, you're greeted with the usual Steam Big Picture mode. It does support Chinese, but requires an additional font pack import, which I haven't gotten around to yet. On the Android handheld, you can bring up the left and right side menus with buttons or key combinations, just like on a real SteamOS handheld. And honestly, just by looking at the main interface and menus, it truly gives off the vibe of a miniature, lightweight SteamDeck handheld. This is where the advantage of installing to internal storage over a TF card really shows. The Steam interface on the internal storage is very smooth, while the one on the TF card is quite laggy. I don't know if the video can capture it, but the navigation on the Fit is noticeably laggier than on the RP6. It's not just the menus. Installing, updating Steam, downloading and running games are all much slower with a TF card than with internal storage. And the Fit has another bug. After flashing ROCKNIX, you can't adjust the screen brightness or use the touchscreen. It seems like the drivers aren't compatible yet. So, our upcoming videos will center on the RP6. You see, we're already starting to see some of the underlying issues here. The frustrating aspects of modding Android for Steam are now becoming evident, but this is merely the appetizer. The true nightmare truly commences with the upcoming gaming experience. Let's just get the conclusion out of the way first. The difficulty of gaming with this setup is like multiplying the hassle of flashing a system, emulating PC on Android, and tinkering with SteamOS. You'll likely have no idea where the problem is, and there are hardly any ready-made solutions. You just have to try things one by one, which is a huge waste of your limited time and energy. Let's start with a few games that can run smoothly. Oh, and before you launch a game, remember to go into the developer options and set the compatibility layer to Proton 11.0A RM64. All the following game tests will be based on this compatibility layer. First of all, Dead Cells is a classic example of a game used for low-power testing. On the RP6 running Steam via ROCKNIX, Dead Cells plays at a stable 100 plus FPS at 1080p. It's a good experience. During gameplay, you can open the left and right menus just like on SteamOS. The right side menu also properly brings up the performance overlay, allowing for individual game configurations like frame limiting. However, many options don't work, like upscaling, screen filters, and everything related to TDP power control. Can't limit power use nor read current draw. Compared to the SteamDeck and a Windows handheld with Bazzite, it's probably because it doesn't have deep OS level integration. It's still missing a lot of useful features. Next is Stardew Valley. This game is pretty amazing. It can run directly without even needing a compatibility layer. It would be fantastic if all games were like this, wouldn't it? Next, I'll select MuseDash, a rhythm game that isn't too performance intensive, to test its audio playback and input delay. After a few rounds, I didn't notice any issues, but you do have to manually limit the frame rate because the game doesn't lock it by default. Then there's Cuphead. While it plays fine and the controls are responsive, almost like running natively, it froze up on me twice when transitioning between areas. I'm wondering if it's because the read-write speed can't keep up. Now, for a slightly more demanding game, Ori. At native 1080p, locked at 60 FPS, it runs quite stably. Both visuals and smoothness are good. Hey, after seeing all this, are you starting to think the gaming experience is actually pretty decent? Yes, this Android plus Steam solution, when running games that work well, genuinely resembles a compact, highly portable SteamOS handheld gaming device. I even feel that if a SteamDeck Lite were to exist, this is exactly the kind of next-generation experience it should deliver. But, and this is a significant but, what I've just presented are essentially all the games I've managed to get running decently from my entire personal library of frequently played titles. So now I'm going to show you how I've been going through hell. First, some games run in a confusing manner. Ninja Gaiden, Dragon Sword for instance, had an incredibly low frame rate during my test run that I couldn't fix. Yet the moment I started recording, it magically hit nearly 60 FPS. It's truly baffling. Then there's Hades 2, a game I spent a lot of time playing for my RP6 video at the start of the year, which makes it a perfect benchmark. Running on Android with a gamepad, it's typically super smooth and should be an easy game to handle. However, with this particular setup, it wouldn't even run with the default settings. I managed to force it open by specifying DirectX 12, but then it became so incredibly laggy that it was essentially unplayable. And for bigger 3D games, Resident Evil 4 Original gets major slowdown when moving or panning, indicating a significant performance hit, if RE4 struggles this much. And for those two classic games, Monster Hunter World and Rise, they both need DirectX 12. Even the 8GEN3 and 8GEN1 struggle, so we won't bother with this 8Z2. Ultimately, game compatibility is a far bigger gamble than Android to PC transfers. You can never be sure if a game you want to play will run properly, and starting one feels exactly like waiting for exam results. PC Monster Hunter is totally out of the question, and not all indie games even fully launch. Although there are some videos online of it running AAA games, for me personally, this setup has very little practical value. Regarding the comparisons between these gaming solutions, I initially believed there was much more to discuss. However, after witnessing the gameplay experience firsthand, I'm sure you understand. Every game I tested on the other four setups, whether running natively or via emulation, could at least function properly. This alone demonstrates a vast and undeniable difference. And the game compatibility issues aren't even the biggest problem. The real issue is that this setup has almost zero hardware optimization right now. Let me give you an example. When you short press the power button to put it on standby, the game does pause but the screen stays on. Pressing the power button again resumes the game normally. What the heck? The screen doesn't turn off in standby? What kind of thundersleet is this? Therefore, a handheld gaming setup that can't even manage a quick casual game is not viable at all. It can't even replace PC handhelds. It's still miles behind Ballet's Gaishi gaming solution. Therefore, at least for me currently, my view is to still prioritize playing on a PC handheld like a Valet or Gaishi. If you're willing to tinker, you can try installing it on a TF card, but if anyone tells you to flash your main device, claiming this thing can perfectly replace a PC handheld, just slap them right back. But then again, just for those few compatible games and assuming features like screen off and power consumption work properly, the theoretical experience, and I stress, theoretical, should be quite good. Seriously, PC handhelds have been a pain for gamers for ages. If a solution could come along that fixes their high price, bulky size, and awful battery life due to poor energy efficiency, that would really be a game changer. So looking at it from another angle, I think it has no practical value right now, but it's definitely not meaningless. It has a promising future ahead. Constrained by the impossible triangle of handheld performance, size, and battery life, we do need to take an unconventional approach. Running x86 games on ARM through a compatibility layer might be one of the viable paths forward. And from what I can see, the current issues are mostly compatibility problems. While not easily fixed, there's at least some hope for solutions. In summary, I hope various solutions can advance concurrently. For instance, the O3 setup with performance scripts and Gaishi 6.0 has been genuinely enjoyable for me these past few days. I'm also eager for Steam's official VR headset release, hoping it delivers a Steam OS better suited for Android handhelds. I also wish future x86 chips better adapt to handheld use, as a native experience is always the most effortless. Okay, that's it for this video on installing ROCKNIX plus Steam on an Android handheld. Let me remind you all again, this episode is very subjective, time sensitive, and involves a lot of tinkering. Please use it as needed.